when the night fall and the forest begins to whisper, make sure you're ready to face what should never be heard. Welcome to Bloodthirsty Forest, where the stories never truly end. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. New horror stories every week, darker, deeper, and more disturbing than the last. If you dare, stay until the end. I've always believed that silence has a shape. It curls into the spaces between thoughts and lingers in the dead air just after someone says your name, even if no one's there. Silence isn't just the absence of sound. Sometimes it's the memory of something that used to scream. That thought kept circling my mind as we turned off the paved road and onto the dirt trail leading into Blackroot Forest. The GPS had lost its signal an hour ago, but Mason insisted we were close. "This is it," he said, grinning as he cut the engine. "The old ranger station should be just down this trail." We were 6 in total: Mason, Lila, Jamie, Meeks, Claire, and me. Old friends from college. The kind of group that only saw each other once a year now, catching up over beer and ghost stories at someone's cabin. But this year, Mason had a different idea. "There's a place no one talks about," he told us in the group chat weeks ago. It used to be a youth summer camp, Camp Windmere. Shut down in the 90s after a bunch of kids went missing. Locals say the forest swallowed them. I thought it was a joke. It wasn't. The trail was almost completely overgrown, choked by twisted tree roots and thick ferns. We hiked in silence, our footsteps muffled by moss and rot. The deeper we went, the more it felt like the forest was tightening around us. About 2 hours in, we found the clearing. The remnants of the camp were still there. Crooked cabins with collapsing roofs, a moss-covered flagpole, and what looked like the remains of a fire pit in the center. The air was colder here, even though the sun hadn't yet dipped behind the trees. "This is perfect," Mason declared, throwing down his pack. "Creepy enough for ghost stories, but not too far from civilization." He was wrong on both counts. That first night we sat around the old fire pit with a crackling fire and shared laughs over cheap whiskey. Jamie told the story of the Gray Boy, a pale child with no mouth who haunted the lake back at his hometown. Lila screamed at the sound of an owl and spilled her drink all over Claire. Meeks kept joking that we were all going to die in our sleep. It was all fun, until I heard the whisper. Soft, barely audible, just one word. My name. "Nate." I turned. No one was near me. The others were laughing too loudly to have heard it. I shook it off. Probably the wind, I told myself. But Blackroot Forest was dead still. Not even the crickets sang. That night I couldn't sleep. The forest outside the tent felt alive, watching, breathing. I kept hearing twigs snap, soft and slow, like footsteps creeping around our campsite. And then just past midnight I heard the whisper, closer this time. "Nate." It wasn't a dream. I stepped out of my tent, flashlight in hand. The beam cut through the trees but found nothing. Still, the air smelled strange, like wet earth mixed with old metal and something sweet, like rotting flowers. That's when I saw her, barely visible between 2 trees. A girl standing perfectly still, long black hair, a white summer dress. Her arms hung at her sides like dead weight. Her face. I couldn't see it clearly, but her head tilted slightly as if she were studying me. I blinked. She was gone. The next morning I didn't tell the others. They already thought I was the paranoid one of the group, but I did notice something odd. Meeks wasn't up. When we checked his tent, it was empty. Sleeping bag unzipped, his pack still there, no sign of struggle, just gone. Mason tried to stay calm. "He probably went to pee or scout around," he said, forcing a laugh. "You know Meeks. Probably trying to scare us." We spent 2 hours looking. He wasn't anywhere. But that's not the worst part. We found footprints, small ones, leading away from the camp and vanishing into the thick underbrush. They didn't belong to Meeks. They were barefoot. And there were 2 sets. One small one and one far too thin to be human. We didn't leave. Looking back, I still can't explain why. Maybe it was pride. Maybe fear of admitting that something was wrong. Or maybe it was the forest, slowly winding its roots around our judgment. "We'll wait until tomorrow," Mason said. "He'll come back, he has to." But the unease never left us. That afternoon, the weather turned. A fog rolled in, thick and low, hugging the ground like a shroud. Jamie swore he saw a figure moving in the mist, pacing along the tree line. Claire told him to shut up, but she couldn't hide the tremble in her voice. Lila stayed in her tent. She hadn't said much since Meeks disappeared. I caught her whispering to herself, the same sentence over and over. She's watching me, she's watching me. That night no one sat by the fire. The silence returned, heavy, pressing against our ears like deep water. The kind of silence that makes you hear your own heartbeat and wonder if it's the only sound left in the world. Around 2 a.m. I was jolted awake by something scratching at the side of my tent. Light, slow, deliberate. Like fingernails against canvas. I held my breath. It stopped. Then came the voice, soft and twisted like someone imitating a human. "Nate, come with me." I snapped on my flashlight and unzipped the tent. No one was there. Just the trees and the fog. But something caught my eye. In the dirt right outside my tent were more footprints, small, barefoot, and beside them are drag marks, as if someone had been pulled. Claire screamed at dawn. Jamie was gone. His tent was torn open from the side. No blood, no struggle. Just the same pattern. Personal belongings untouched, no sign of him, and those same barefoot prints trailing off into the trees. This time we panicked. "I'm done," Claire yelled, grabbing her bag. "We're leaving right now." We packed up in under 10 minutes. But the forest, it had changed. The path we came in on, the narrow dirt trail that had taken us to the camp, was gone. Vanished. Swallowed by the underbrush. "No," Mason muttered, pushing through the trees. "It was right here. I marked it. I fucking marked it." He stopped. His marker, a red strip of cloth tied to a branch, was hanging from a tree facing the opposite direction. We were turned around. Lost. We walked for hours. The compass spun uselessly. The sun never broke through the fog. It felt like the forest had no end, only repetition. The same crooked trees, the same fallen logs. At one point, we found a pile of smooth rocks arranged in a spiral, surrounded by dead birds. That's when Lila collapsed. She clutched her head and screamed, she's inside me." We had to pin her down to keep her from clawing at her own skin. Her eyes rolled back and she whispered something in a language none of us understood. And then she laughed, a low rasping sound, not her voice. Something else. Something older. That night we stayed together in one cabin, locked the doors, boarded the windows. Claire cried herself to sleep, clutching a photo of Jamie. Mason sat by the door with the hunting knife in his lap, eyes bloodshot. I couldn't sleep. I could feel the forest breathing outside, listening, and at exactly 3:13 a.m. the whispers came again. Not just mine. They called all our names one after another, as if something was walking around the cabin, stopping at each wall to whisper into the wood. Claire, Mason, Lila, Nate. But there was something else in the voice now. Laughter, like a child's giggle buried inside the words. I covered my ears and stared at the door. I swear I saw the handle twitch. In the morning Claire was gone. The window above her sleeping bag had been shattered from the inside. Glass out, not in. She'd left, or been taken. Lila wouldn't speak anymore. She just sat in the corner, humming a melody none of us recognized. Sometimes she scratched symbols into the dirt. Strange circles with jagged lines that hurt to look at. Mason wanted to leave her behind. I refused. I shouldn't have. That night was the worst. I don't remember falling asleep. But I remember waking up to the sound of digging from underneath the cabin. Slow, wet digging. Then the floorboards creaked. And something whispered, "There's room for one more." I don't know how long I lay frozen, staring at the warped cabin floor where the voice had come from. There's room for one more. The digging had stopped, but the smell remained. A foul mix of wet soil and something older, sour and metallic, like rusted chains soaked in blood. Mason sat across from me, his face pale, the knife trembling in his grip. "You heard it too," I whispered. He didn't answer. His eyes were locked on the floor. Then slowly he raised a finger, pointing at the wall behind me. I turned and saw the writing, scratched into the wooden boards by something sharp, uneven, rushed, carved deep enough to splinter. She lives beneath, she waits for youth, she eats what calls her name. We didn't sleep. We just waited for daylight. Lila was gone when the morning came. No struggle, no blood. Just a trail of symbols. The same spirals and slashes she'd been drawing, leading out the door and into the woods. I wanted to follow. Mason held me back. No, it's what she wants. He was right. But doing nothing felt worse. So we packed what little was left and walked. That day bled into the next. Time no longer made sense in the forest. Hours passed without light changing. Mason stopped speaking. I started hallucinating. I saw Jamie's face in the bark of a tree, his mouth wide open in a silent scream. I saw Claire's hair tangled in the branches. And Lila. Her laughter echoed between the trees, but never from one direction, always circling. By the fourth day, Mason was muttering to himself. I know how to end it, he said. She wants youth, right? She wants someone to stay. I didn't like the way he looked at me when he said that. That night Mason was gone. He left a note pinned to the cabin wall with the knife. I'm trading myself for them. Tell her I'm young. Tell her I'll stay forever. I ran into the forest screaming his name. The fog swallowed my voice. I found the old well near the edge of the forgotten campgrounds, a place we hadn't explored yet. Its stone walls were cracked, moss-eaten. Ropes hung from the side like nooses. Bones littered the ground. And at the bottom, I saw her. Not a girl, not anymore. A figure with no skin, just shadow and hair and a face carved from stolen flesh. Dozens of eyes blinked across her body, stitched from different victims. Her arms were too long, her mouth stretched wide, far too wide. And she smiled. I ran. Didn't stop until the forest itself changed. Suddenly I was standing at the edge of the original trail, the one we had entered on. My pack was lighter, my clothes soaked. I turned to look back. The trees were gone, just flat earth, as if nothing had ever been there. I told the police everything. They found no trace of the camp. No footprints, no cabins, not even the clearing. They said it was trauma, that I invented it all. No missing persons reports, no GPS records of our location, nothing. Even my phone's pictures were gone, wiped clean. It's been a year now. I never saw Mason, Lila, or the others again. But sometime in the middle of the night, when everything is quiet, I hear someone scratching beneath my floorboards. And a voice whispers, "There's room for one more. If you're still here, then you made it to the end. But be careful. Some things follow you after the story stops." Thank you for listening, In the Dark. If you enjoyed this tale from the Bloodthirsty Forest, make sure to subscribe so you'll never miss what comes next from the shadows. Until next time, keep your lights off.